What's going on, guys? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer. As you can see, I'm down here by the water, and I flipped the camera around because the light coming off the water, you can't really see my face. I just wanted to show you where I was. I have to film this rather quickly because I'm not actually supposed to be in this conservation area, I guess you could say it, because of COVID-19. So I wanted to talk about, I mentioned this in my last video, but talking about video games that leave a terrible first impression. Now, before we get into that, I just want to show you the CD of the day. Dads and Lads Gaming. I know he loves this band. 9 Inch Nails, and this is their debut album, Pretty Hate Machine. It's a classic. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. It's hard to believe this came out in '89. You can hear it though. You can tell it's not quite as industrial as they became in the early to mid '90s. So, a great band. So again, talking about games that leave a terrible first impression. And again, the first one that comes to mind is the game I'm playing right now, Breath of the Wild, Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like I said earlier, you start off the game, you have no weapons, you get a branch that breaks after you hit a couple of enemies. It's really infuriating. It's frustrating to play that game at first. It wasn't after I played the game for a couple of hours and got into the main quest line and got off the main little hub where you have to find the 4, I guess you could call them temples, that the game started to open up and become more fun. But like I said, there's a lot of people, and I was one of them, that picked up that game at first and was completely turned off by it. Like I said, you don't know, I mean, unless you're a hardcore gamer. I couldn't imagine a casual gamer picking that game up. You start the game, and like I said, weapons are breaking, you don't know where to go. The controls take quite a bit of getting used to as well. So, like I said, I think that's a game that probably turned a lot of people off. I'd love to see the percentage of people that actually played that game that actually saw it all the way to the end. Another game that comes to mind is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I love that game, but I'll be the first to admit it's a slow burn. You start off the game, and it takes a long time to get into it for the gears to be set in motion. It's a very slow, mundane start to the game. And it's funny when you're on, at least, when you're on Xbox achievements and you look at the one achievement that shows how many people have beaten the game, it's like, last time I checked, it was like very small percentage, like 1 or 2%. Because like I said, it's a game that leaves a terrible first impression. Like I can imagine a lot of people picked up that game at first, and a lot of people, it's more of like a pick up and go mentality, kind of like going to McDonald's. You have your Happy Meal, wolf down your meal, throw it out, and get on with your day. A lot of people don't have time to sit there and take the time to play these games. A few other games to mention. I was looking at my catalog of games, and most of the games that leave a terrible first impression are not from, the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. It was simpler times, right? A lot of the games came out, within the last decade. So I don't have the list with me, unfortunately, but I know, again, there's several video games in my collection that it was the same thing. Terrible first impression, and then it wasn't after I spent, several hours with said game that I changed my perspective on it. So that's why I wanted to make this video. I think with more of these open world games that we're seeing, it's becoming almost like a movie, right? It's got ebbs and flows. It's got slow, set pieces, and we've talked about this before. This isn't Super Mario Brothers 3. Right off the get-go, you're out, and it doesn't stop. Like I said, another game probably be maybe The Last of Us. I don't know. I haven't played it, but I'm sure it probably could have a slow introduction to a game like that. I know when I first played Doom 3, that's a game that had a slow introduction. So, like I said, is this the norm? Is this going to be how things are with these games that are of biblical proportion? Let me know in the comments below. Have you guys played any games recently that left a terrible first impression, but then you went back to and played it a little bit more and realized it was a good game. It just, like I said, gave you a bad first impression. So leave it in the comments below. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care.